Welcome to OSM, Operation Safe Mode. Peace be with you. Jesus, I trust in you. How important it is for us to trust in the Lord, especially in these difficult times. With 2020 vision, we desire to come closer to Him, but we're constantly under attack by Satan. Last week, we spoke a little bit about sins of thought, whether they're temptation of thought or do we prolong them to make them sins. We talked a little bit about how to clear the mechanism before we fall asleep, creating new triggers. Those triggers, as I mentioned last week, is to pray. Instead of falling into the thought of the temptation, pray for the particular person that we're tempted to sin against, or pray for the virtue that is necessary to overcome a particular sin, such as impurity. What I would like to talk about today is a little bit of what is Satan's game in the cause of our sin through temptation. What is it that he wants to accomplish? In C.S. Lewis' book, Screwtape Letters, a senior devil is training a young devil on how to tempt people. And one of the things that's very clear is what Jesus said in the scriptures. Either be hot or cold. If you're lukewarm, I'll spew you from my mouth. Satan's goal is to make us lukewarm. Satan's goal is never to make us not believe in God. It's hard to believe that, right? You would think that he would want us not to believe in God. But it is our belief and love of God that he wants to turn against us. Satan cannot make me or you quit our belief of God or even our desire to be pleasing to him. So he will prey on our inability to do that. So what Satan does is, if he can tempt us and we sin, then he wants false guilt to continue to be a part of our life. He wants us to believe that God could never forgive us for that particular sin. He wants us to know that God could never accept us into his loving mercy. And that to me is a nightmare, to imagine that my sin is greater than the love of God. That's called despair. Sometimes we say that despair is a lack of faith, but truly the lack of faith is falling for Satan's trap of making us believe that we're not worthy of Jesus' love. In next week's episodes, we're going to talk about the 5 paths that lead to repentance. And in those 5 paths, we're going to see how they recreate our own image into God's loving image as he sees and has created us. So remember this, Satan will tempt us to trigger us towards sin. And when we sin, he will drop us, not as a friend and welcome us into the life of sinners and those who will enter into hell, but put us in a place of despair so that we can't believe that God could ever forgive us. How important then it is for us to realize that we desire God's forgiveness and can be affirmed and know it completely in a sacramental way. Satan is only one who gives up his game when we're aware of the game that he desires to play in our lives. The great saints always said that Satan is a fool because his temptations will come to us with fierce fear of sinning when we're growing closer to the Lord. If he already has us in that lukewarm cesspool, he'll leave us alone. He'll let us continue to do our habitual sins. He'll let us be able to demean others and ourselves in our relationship with God. But if you try to get out of that cesspool, if you try to grow closer to the Lord, then he will move in fiercely and make us afraid of our own unworthiness. So remember this, it's in times like these that saints are forged. It's in times like these that we desire to grow closer to the Lord, that our temptations from Satan will be about God's lack of ability or desire to forgive us. And in those times, we truly must stay safe in his mercy and his love.